Hello and welcome. This is MouseGunner, some more Factorio. And what do we have planned for this episode?
Well, first we're going to try to double our smelting output. And the way you do that, this is a pretty simple thing to do if you have the materials, is you make steel furnaces. You can see here, just require steel and stone brick. So we've made stone brick before, we talked about that for the refineries, and we've already had steel, we've had that for a while. You make these steel furnaces, and conveniently you don't have to pick up the stone furnaces, you can just click and drag right on top of them, and you'll replace the stone furnaces with steel furnaces. Steel furnaces produce whatever they're producing twice as fast as stone furnaces. So we noticed that we have all of this ore, particularly we're having an iron ore overflow, and our steel in particular is just woefully short. So over the next, couple episodes or just in the future, we're going to try and upgrade our furnaces to these steel ones because they're so much faster. Figured we'd mention it since it's something that might be useful to know, that the faster you get to steel furnaces, the faster you're going to produce more stuff.
And just something I'd like to point out really quickly. In the end of the last episode, we were a little bit confused where our iron, or why we weren't getting iron. It was because our train wasn't running. It had run out of fuel. So I have just set up a real quick refueling station, more or less set up the way that the offloaders work, except rather than offloading, it onloads. So when it needs coal, it will be loaded up at MouseGunner Station.
Yeah, and that's something useful to note. Pretty much, if you're not paying attention, or if you're just kind of setting up your train early, I mean, the exact thing that happened to us will happen. You sometimes forget to set up a kind of automatic refuel station, and sure enough, they'll run out of fuel. So I'm up here by our science setup, and the last couple episodes we got the red circuits here set up, finished up the battery production here. You can see just a kind of interwoven design here. And what I've done in between episodes, just briefly, is added these two assembling machines on to our what used to be green science area. So you can see this was here. The regular inserter was one of the ingredients we needed for green science. And it's also an ingredient in the filter inserters, which we need for blue science. So I just added this right on top. Now, technically, if everything's running full blast, we're not going to have enough regular inserters to be made for both green science and for the blue inserters here. But as you can see, a lot of times stuff just comes to a halt. It's rare that you really need everything running full blast. So I'm just kind of leeching off of that production. And then I dragged these green circuits around because they're needed as well to produce these filter inserters. So I took the filter inserters, I brought them down. Conveniently, they're only on one side of the belt because I only have the one inserter. I dropped the batteries right onto the other side of the belt, brought the red circuits over here, just kind of along, and then steel off of our main bus. And these are our 4 ingredients we have here required for blue science. Now what I'm going to do, I had wanted to save this space, but it turns out I don't quite have enough, is... Yep, already got the right idea, although you are off on the level. Needs to be there at that level. Doesn't matter quite as much left or right, but that is the level that is... I like to keep all of my machines kind of at the same vertical level. Well, now I'm confused.
Oh,
What are you
okay.
doing? I'm going this way.
Okay.
Same as all the other everything is a column, always columns. Although we need space between for power poles. Or I guess we don't need it, but the way I tend to set things up here. And oh my god, we've got ugly old wooden poles we need to get rid of. Put the poles in here, and this will be our column of blue science. And same as the other sciences, there's not really a perfect ratio for science because each tech that you're researching will require a different number of different amounts of science. So you just basically make a whole bunch. And if you find you need more of one kind, you make more. The way I think we should do this, I'll do... Oh, that works too. No big deal. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. This is one of those things that really doesn't have a special design, or at least I don't have a special design that I really need. Although, actually, the one thing I'll note is it would be good to put the blue science output over here on the very far end. That way, well,
So
now
you
it's
want
gone.
the long inserters going out?
Yeah, that way we can put the blue science here and then just run it directly into the science labs like this. Now, the one thing I am going to do is make sure that it's only on one side of the belt. But we'll just go like this. And then from here, it's just running the inputs, which we conveniently already have on the belts.
Do you want fast inserters or just normal ones?
No, they don't need fast inserters. And an easy way to tell is if you look at the Science Pack 3 recipe, it takes 12 seconds to create a Science Pack 3, a blue science, and it only needs 4 inputs. So a normal inserter will rotate, I believe it's once every second. So it will take 4 seconds to grab all of the materials, and it only needs it every 12 seconds. So you're okay with just a regular inserter. And we'll just add these up. Connect power, and we should have blue science, which is great because now I can go into my research queue here and start queuing up some blue science research. Now let's see. Ooh, tank. Yeah, I want the tank. Thought cars were fun. Soon we'll have tanks. And actually, I should be a little more pragmatic. We should do advanced oil processing first, but then tanks. Let's see. I need to change this to, there we go, advanced oil processing. So this will take a few minutes, but actually now we get a good idea of what we're really lacking now that we're using some of these materials. So obviously we're lacking steel. We mentioned that earlier. And I'm going to keep a careful eye on the batteries as well because we might run out of sulfuric acid. I have to take a look. Did you steal my car?
Maybe.
Had a bunch of stuff in that car.
I don't remember if it's yours or not.
Oh, look in the trunk.
Nope.
You'll know it's mine.
No, it's not yours.
Yeah. Any mod makers watching this should make a mod where you can label cars. Or maybe the color will stick around after you get out of the car.
Would it be worthwhile to have doubled up steel production, or do you think that's not worth it?
Yes, it definitely would. And so the only thing to mention about steel in particular is that as long as you have equal number of steel furnaces as you do iron plate furnaces feeding them, it'll make sense. If you just kind of double up steel and don't double up the iron, then you won't be able to run it. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. I want to see this belt full of steel.
Right. Well, I'll at least put these two because that's what I have in my pocket. But
And we can just get this going. Oh, another area with these ugly poles. Time to get rid of these ugly poles.
okay, that's right.
And there we go. These poles are so much neater. They make me happy. Clean this up. There we go. Now we are almost all medium poled. Ah, not the right place.
You
I
may find
object.
the right price.
I object to your pole
Powering
placement.
everything.
There we go. We can already see, at least here on the iron input, that we've got a good amount of iron coming in. I have a single. Well, that's not acceptable. Can't have an uneven line.
No, I got it. I got it.
There we go. And then, unfortunately, I've been talking a lot about these poles, the crappy poles that I don't like. These furnaces, the stone ones, are another one of those items that are just kind of useless after you've upgraded to the steel furnaces. So I now have 4 of them in my inventory that I'm going to go find a box somewhere to just designate for, useless stuff.
What did you run into?
I didn't run into anything. I
This
never
car
ran into
wasn't
anything.
damaged before. Oh, okay. Oh,
Damn. Do I have a repair pack? Yes, I do. Okay. So now we have at least a little more steel coming in. Does look like our oil has shut off again. Ah, yes. So we're having another issue here where we're not producing anything because we have too much heavy. We have too much heavy because we're not emptying our heavy. So I'm just going to double up on the tank here. But you can imagine this will become a problem if we don't start using this lubricant. We'll just keep backing up. But that is the reason I chose advanced oil processing to research next, because that will give us an ability to deal with some of this extra oil that we have lying around. So let's see. Let's take a look at how our factory's doing. Overall, we have decent iron throughput. Still a little low on steel, but we're working towards fixing that. Oil will be fixed once we get advanced oil processing. I think the next thing to do is probably start making advanced circuits for general use. Put on the bus and start using for other things. So I have the advanced circuits here used pretty much just for science. You can see we've already consumed them all. But I tend to separate my production. I have kind of the science area, and all these things are just used for science. And then for general purpose use, I like to have a completely separate column. Now, unfortunately, looks like the space I had marked out for them is ahead of where plastic enters the bus. But I think we can live with that. So what I'm going to do is basically recreate the red circuit column that we have over here, and send it onto the bus for general purpose. Go ahead and start that. Right about there, looks good. Oh, I have no electric poles.
did you ever do another refinery? Oh, you did. Wow.
I
we
did
still
one,
don't have-
yes. Yeah.
We're still really low on petroleum gas. Because looking at the pipes, it looks like there's not. I don't think there's anything in here.
So for a while, we were not manufacturing anything because we were backed up on heavy oil. Is that still the case? We shouldn't.
I will check. No, we're making it. We're just not making it fast enough.
Yeah, so that's a common problem. I mean, those refineries aren't the fastest things in the world. So, especially once you get into late game, and I mean, even mid game, you can start having these huge columns of refineries just because you need oil at a much faster rate than those refineries can really make. Oh, now I'm out of transport belt. Always out of something. Do we have any in the car? Of course not.
It does look like plastic is starting to back. Oh, there's a reason why plastic is backing up. It's not.
Yeah.
Oh no, it is. It's going into stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's being split, so the split area is.
Okay. Well, then that'll eventually work out for us, right? As
Yep.
that backs
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and I did put the split in because we will eventually need plastic down the bus for other things, so I didn't want to just kind of send it off on its own. All right, while I'm here, I'll grab some underground belt as well. Grab some. Whoop. Oh man, I managed to fill my inventory. That's what the car is for. Dump a bunch of stuff in there. See, this is why I'm protective over my car, because dump a bunch of stuff in the trunk. All right. So does everything make sense so far? I feel like we've kind of covered a lot recently, but this has pretty much been the most complicated that I feel this game gets.
Mhm.
The oil and blue science. A lot of new players have trouble with blue science, but I think we've kind of covered that at least decently well. Here I am having, what did you call it? Mental problems.
Yeah, it does look like the blue science is being produced pretty well here. Oh, belt doesn't go all the way out. Oh, we're not researching anything that needs it though, are we?
Well, advanced oil processing does need it. But actually, yeah, it should be researching. Oh, we have no inserters.
The inserters, yeah. Okay, I'll fix that here in a second.
Yeah, well, I'm over here now. I might as well go ahead and add some of these. Fortunately, I put the lights in the way of some of these. Trying to be nice and light up the factory, but the lights just get in the way. There we go. Now it'll research. Yeah, every once in a while you can have little derp moments like that.
Well, yeah, I was wondering why we were backing up with the blue science because we're so low on the red circuits, but that's why.
Yep. And little things you got to pay attention to then every once in a while. Well, this will be good though because we will get the advanced oil processing done, and then we can move on to the fancier oil things, which, as I was talking about, we've kind of covered most of the complicated things. One of the remaining ones is probably some of the more advanced oil processing things you can do. Okay, so I was back here working on getting copper to the advanced circuits.
All right, well, there's your advanced oil processing.
Excellent. So it's
So what has that unlocked? Ooh, a bunch of stuff.
yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff you get with that. The most important of which, we'll head down to the refineries and we'll show you what the kind of the biggest reason you really want these. So I mentioned when we were building the refinery area, however many episodes ago that was, that you only had the one choice for recipe. Now we have another one. So if we open up our refineries, you can click the little circle button and change the recipe to advanced oil processing. And you'll notice here, you go from 3 heavy oil, 3 light oil, 4 petrol, to 1 heavy oil, 4.5 light oil, and 5.5 petrol. So you get more light oil and more petrol at the expense of heavy oil. But usually you're using light oil and petrol the most anyway. So in the end, it generally works out better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now I hooked these up to the wrong connections, but this is why when we were setting this up, I left space for the water. Because now you'll see we have this need for a water input. And because I left space for it, and because I knew it was going to come, I left the space for the water. We hook up both of those inputs now, and off we go with the advanced oil processing. It's also, I believe, faster. I believe it only takes 5 seconds.
Which input you do matters. So the water has to go on the top, or am I misunderstanding that?
Yes, so the water does have to go on the top, And every time I try to set it up ahead of time, I try to remember, and I always forget. But it does matter. You have to actually line up, the input with the icon, on the actual plant.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, I see it now. I was looking in the inventory and I saw water first, oil second. And I thought that's why you did it that way. But I see now that there's actual icons here. Gotcha.
Yes, although that might be a good way for me to try and remember that water goes first. Although I think if you rotate them, if you rotate it upside down, yeah, water's no longer first. So, oops, put this back. There we go. But yeah, so you got to hook them up to the correct port. But yeah, then you get. Now I'm gonna check here. Yeah, it does only take. Oh, the basic oil processing only takes 5 seconds as well. So it takes the same amount of time, but you get more of the product that you care the most about, namely petrol, and you do get a little more light oil. Sort of useful sometimes.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're still a little behind on the petrol, but hopefully that will turn itself around eventually.
Yeah, so
Okay, so I think it's a good point to go ahead and wrap up this video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is MouseGunner and Rotype signing out.